All right. Well, welcome into another Front Office Sports webinar. I got a really good one here for the next hour. We're going to be spending a lot of time talking about how to drive sponsorship revenue in a digital advertising age. Really want to shout out our sponsor for this and partner in this webinar, Nick and SQWAD. What they've done is really cool from an activation standpoint, and you guys will be able to see everything that they've been able to do over the course of their short time as a business together. Oh, we have someone joining us from a plane too. Look at this. Ron joining us for a plane. This is a first. He may drop out. He may drop out, but
I don't know if he'll say much, but he's on here. He might shake his head on that side, but thanks for hopping on, Ron.
I have never seen this before. That's a first. But anyways, definitely want to introduce everyone. So today and for the next hour, we're going to be joined by Peter Casarico, Senior Director of Integrated Media Sales over at ISC, Rich Franklin, VP of Partnerships at the Portland Winterhawks, Chris McKee, Director of Biz Dev at the Motor Racing Network, and then Ron, who's from New Mexico United, joining us from a plane somewhere. But anyways, guys, would like to kick it over to you, let you guys introduce yourselves first before we jump into some questions.
Awesome. Who do you want to start with?
Nick,
I guess I'll go ahead now. I'm Nick Lawson. I'm the co-founder of a company called SQWAD Sports, or just SQWAD. We're helping teams like this great panel here and events just connect fans to sponsors digitally during breaks in the action through mobile contests, digital activations. As we'll dive in here today, digital is a big thing, and we're just there to help teams out and help give them the assets to kind of compete on that end.
Awesome.
Now I'll go next. I'm Peter Casarico with ISC. I'm Senior Director of Integrated Media here at ISC. We are one of the largest motorsports promoters in the country with 12 facilities, including Daytona International Speedway. The company also owns Motor Racing Network, which is my connection to Chris McKee, which he'll come on in a minute. But that is the official voice of NASCAR, the official audio network. So my role is to integrate our assets, work with potential partners, and provide marketing platforms that help them sell and connect to our NASCAR fans that we touch throughout the year.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Great to have you.
He threw my name up there, so I'll go next. I'm Chris McKee, Director of Business Development at the Motor Racing Network, or otherwise known as MRN. Year 50 for the Motor Racing Network. We are, as Peter said, the voice of NASCAR. We are the radio broadcast partner of that entity. And we carry about 75% of the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series races, 75% of the Xfinity Series races, and 100% of the NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series races. There is a sister network called Performance Racing Network, PRN, that carries that other 25% of the Xfinity and Cup Series. We are, obviously, our bread and butter is the audio world and our radio network with our 500 plus traditional AM FM radio station partners across the country. Also simulcast partner with Sirius XM Channel 90, and of course with NASCAR.com, MRN.com, and some other distribution channels as well. Year 6 for me here, been in the NASCAR world for getting long in the tooth, well over 20 years now. Worked with sponsor Aflac, running their race program for 5 years, and before that, a little over a decade with Richard Petty and the Richard Petty Motorsports race team as well for a decade before that. So that's my story. I'm sticking with it.
Awesome. And Rich joining us from a nice cabin. He said he's going to go whitewater rafting after this.
Yeah, I'm currently coming to you from Seventh Mountain Resort in Bend, Oregon, where I'm down here taking a week of vacation before our season gets going. But my name is Rich Franklin. I'm Vice President of Corporate Partnerships for the Portland Winterhawks hockey team. We are members of the Western Hockey League. There's 22 teams in the league. 5 are in the United States, in Portland, Seattle, Everett, Spokane, and Tri-Cities. And the other 17 are spread out amongst British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Just heading into my 9th season with the Winterhawks. Prior to that, I spent about 22 years in the media business, specifically in radio sales and sales management. Started my career in Seattle, where I was born and raised, Did first half of my radio career in Seattle, and then moved to Portland and was in radio down in Portland for about another 10, 12 years down there. Got into the hockey business purely by accident. I was just a fan going to games and made some connections at the Winterhawks. They offered me a position, and it sounded like a lot of fun. But it's kind of interesting because I never played hockey and don't know how to skate.
Hey, that's at least they're not asking you to do that, right?
This is true. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm coming to
Appreciate
you in front of a fireplace today here at the 7th Mountain Resort. This is not my home.
Yeah. Not a bad place to be, right?
No, it's not.
Awesome. And Ron, coming to us from some airline somewhere.
Yeah, he might not have the audio connection for that, but
he's in airplane mode.
He's airplane mode. I love it. Well,
yeah.
Well, if he jumps in, he'll jump in. If not, it's just amazing the fact that technology can even make that happen. But do want to get started here, guys, and I think I'll toss it over to Rich, back to you, right? So from your standpoint, Portland Winterhawks WHL team, you're working with corporate partners, finding ways year in and year out to not only upsell the partners, but find ways to drive new value. How have you guys kind of, worked around this digital advertising age and added additional inventory, added additional ways that you can go to your partners and say, hey, let's execute on this?
Well, let's to back up just a little bit. Portland, to begin with, is a very wired city. So we were dealing with a situation about 4 or 5 years ago where we knew that digital marketing was big and becoming bigger. The challenge that we specifically had is that in Portland, Oregon, we are probably about the 5th biggest team in town after the Trailblazers, the Timbers, Oregon and Oregon State sports and things like that. So we knew that digital sponsorships were going to become a bigger part of what we were offering our partners. And really what we kind of knew in the background was we weren't necessarily going to be able to compete on just a mass tonnage basis. In other words, I don't have the audience that Trailblazer basketball does or that Timber soccer does. So when we rolled out our digital strategy for sponsorships, which was about 3 years ago now, we decided that we were going to take a real different approach. We weren't going to go in and just talk about branding and banner ads and things like that, but what we really wanted to do was build up on the fan engagement side of things. We felt that was something that really wasn't being done at the time very much or very effectively in the Portland market. And what we decided to roll out were opportunities for sponsors to use digital assets, particularly in the area of interactivity in games. So we created a fantasy sports game on our app that allowed fans to watch or listen to the game, select a particular player that they thought was going to score a goal or make an assist. They would then earn points, and then they could redeem those points in our rewards store for team items, sponsor items, things along those lines. And then the next thing that we rolled out was a trivia game. We felt like the fantasy sports thing was pretty good for the kind of the hardcore fan who was really paying attention to what was going on the ice every moment of every game. But we wanted something else that we could take out that just the average fan could play. It had a lot of broad appeal, and we felt that trivia was a great way to do it. And again, we structured it in a way that it wasn't just a trivia game and you play and that's it, but rather we involved or integrated other assets into that trivia game. So for example, when you play trivia on your Winterhawks app, you're not just playing it on the app, you're also seeing it on the replay screen as the game is being played. As other fans are playing, you are seeing their vote totals, so you can look at the 3 options, see the percentages. We kind of took a page from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where the contestant gets to poll the audience and see what other people think. We then also took all that information, in addition to giving away prizes for trivia winners, we did some retargeting of those fans with sponsor offers. And then we also tied in a really cool hospitality asset so that people that play the trivia game, whether or not they win or lose, can result in them having a very cool VIP game night experience where they get to sit in a special area right against the glass, right next to the tunnel where the players enter and exit the ice. So really the strategy that we tried to take kind of big picture was, I can't compete just on the size of my fan base because it's just not as big as some of the others in town, but what I can do is roll out some ways to really interact with and engage that fan base, and then take that to the next step so that sponsors are getting more than just a banner or a branding appearance on game night, but there's a lot of follow-up to it as well, and there's a real cool payoff for the fans also as part of that whole thing. So it's worked out very well for us. We're very happy how it's gone. In fact, some of our sponsors have told us they've now taken things like our trivia game to their other sports sponsorships and said, hey, this is what the Winterhawks are doing. This is really cool. It's really effective. Can you do this for us as well? So we're really pleased with how that's gone for us.
And from your standpoint, outside of just the anecdotal, can you share any hard data of like what kind of change from a partner standpoint, or what these are seeing in a lift, or even from your guys' standpoint in registrant signups?
Well, we've seen our app downloads take a big jump, and actually Nick Lawson with SQWAD, who handles some of the back end on our app, can chime in here as well on some of the numbers. The big thing for me as the guy who's responsible for driving sponsorship revenue is I've seen these types of opportunities result in big increases in sponsor revenue. We're talking, I'm well into the six figures now annually on strictly digital dedicated revenue coming from sponsorships. And for a team our size, with a fan base our size, and a league our size, that's a huge number. That's a really, really big number. So we've definitely seen this strategy pay off for us financially. We've seen the fan engagement numbers really increase. It's really worked out well. And Nick, if you've got some additional hard data that you'd like to chime in on that would be great.
Yeah, whenever I kind of think about how digital is going to help, in talking with people like Rich and Ron and Chris and Peter, it's really understanding what the sponsor wants, right? What's the goal of that sponsor? And then using digital to kind of reverse engineer that, right? So a great example is the trivia we did with the Winterhawks. Obviously, we saw around a 30-40% increase in kind of app engagement, but to a sponsor, what does that mean for them, right? The big hard number that we started seeing is we were able to reverse engineer to get those people who have had a great first touch point with that sponsor, be able to kind of jump down into, okay, great first touch point. Now you're retargeted into winning some tickets from that sponsor. Now we're going to get you in a corner where that sponsor can engage with you. And that sponsor was a car partner, and their goal was to engage and build relationships with more Winterhawks fans. Obviously, just the trivia doesn't do that, but the ability that Rich and I were able to do to reverse engineer and say, just selling the sponsor on the Toyota corner, kind of appealing, but not the most appealing. Building the story to reverse engineer that to get to a point where you can say, here's the journey, here's the goal, here's how we're going to hit your goal of introducing your salespeople to people who may be looking for new cars and have a relationship with them in a space that's outside of the the car dealership where it's a high pressure sales position. I think that was really what really made this partner excited. And that's why Rich, saw a big increase in an increase in sponsorship spend is an increase in trust that you understand their goals. You understand that attention is on digital assets, whether you like it or not. And you understand that we are looking to help you reach your goals kind of through some of these trivia activations. So just trivia by itself, great, that's awesome. But I think Rich has done a great job, and all of our teams do a really great job of let's reverse engineer, let's see what the partner likes or what their goal is, and let's see if we can backtrack that.
Awesome, perfect. And now Chris and Peter, I'm going to throw it over to you, and I think everyone kind of probably saw earlier this week, the head coach for Northwestern talking about phones and technology not being a reason why attendance was down. For you guys at ISC and MRN, how have phones and technology and this digital advertising opportunities really changed and elevated the business and offered new opportunities?
Well, I'll jump in here. It's huge because we, as we said, we're in our 50th year, and man, I tell you, the technology of the audio space and / digital space moves so fast, but never as fast as it has, I would say, in the last 24 to 36 months. And we have to change our paradigm and figure out where we were traditionally, and our partners are still, for the most part, the AM/FM radio station partner and Sirius XM as well. But people are consuming, their consumption habits of audio have changed drastically. It's whenever I go speak somewhere and get a room full of 20 people, and I start with a question of, on your way to work or your way to hear this, to this engagement, how many of you listen to AM/FM radio versus your smartphone to a podcast or some other sort of audio distribution channel? And it's a little bit scary to us because that number, 2 years ago, it was, I'd get a handful, 4 or 5 people, and now it's about 80% of the room will respond that they indeed plug into their phone and they're listening to Spotify, Pandora, their favorite podcast, that type of thing. So this engagement from a digital standpoint with regards to the Motor Racing Network and ISC in general is we have to go and get in front of those people where they are. And where they are might not necessarily be coming out of a transistor radio or even from their radio and their dashboard of their car, but rather from their smartphone or their tablet and such. So the tool that we've engaged with SQWAD, to piggyback some of the stuff that Rich was talking about, we're trying to not only get engagement, but long-term engagement with the digital piece and get people to lean in to the race as opposed to leaning out and sort of consuming it through one ear and out the other, but to participate and be part of the game. And it's I'll do a little switch. We went down to go up. And what I mean by that is we had used another vendor in the last couple of years and had a similar product, but we were into this quantity versus quality. We certainly got in trivia questions and such. We were probably getting twice as many in years past and twice as many votes, but the quality of that person wasn't there, and it wasn't that one-to-one relationship that all of us here on this panel are certainly looking for, because we didn't just want somebody to get on there and lend us a vote. We wanted them to come in, participate, and show value back to a potential partner. So our partner interaction has gone way up. We have leads to share with those partners, and the engagement of our core listenership has gone way up. Quality over quantity. Peter, if you want to add something to that.
Yeah, I would just say, Chris and I are probably in a unique position with the sport that we work in that it's a very loud environment at the track. We have, as a business, Chris and I are we have programming that goes out all across the country via audio for the people who can't be at the track. And, in reference to the coach who talked about taking people away from the track, there's many, many reasons that, people aren't going to sporting events. I don't know that the phone is really the reason that it's not. I mean, I look at it as a way to get closer to the sport. In fact, it's the way I saw his interview. It was on my phone. So I think for us, we look at ways, and NASCAR's been looking at ways to grow fan engagement in the sport. We just went through a major renovation at Daytona, building areas like so many sports where fans can consume the sport, watch it, be around it, step away from it, enjoy the day more than just the activity of watching the sport. So I think, there's plenty of ways to engage. And what we looked at was a way, and I think is where, this digital opportunity for us helped us, was both on audio and at the track. Everybody at the track has a phone in their pocket. Everybody is watching a lot of signage and sponsored elements, when they're there at the track. Every car has, sponsors on it. So, how can we make our opportunities, our platform sticky? For us, it wasn't so much, let's build something that we can go sell. It was, let's get something that can increase our fan engagement and bring fans in a way where sponsors can interact with them more than they are now. And I think that's, as Chris said, we started off with a platform that, kind of provided the same thing with us for a fan vote, where we were asking fans their opinion and getting their engagement, whether they were at the track for that race or on wherever they were listening to the broadcast. And that's transitioned and grown into scratcher games, winning number games. We are working not so much with digital budgets, but with national advertisers and looking for ways to engage them and make sure that they come back. And they find that there's more engagement, by using a digital game and connecting directly to somebody versus, our advertising's out there. We know it's working. We just don't know if they're going to go buy that car today. So I think, we're still in the growth stage of this. It's exciting for us, and we're looking forward to renewals at the end of this year, and coming up with new opportunities for more sponsors.
And then
from Adam, I just want to jump in here just because to kind of piggyback off what Rich and Peter and Chris said. Two stats that always stand out to me, and I've written articles about it and tried to push it out there and always share. 54% of the total advertising spend in this year will be on digital platforms. More than half of the total ad spend will be on digital, and sponsorship is basically advertising, right? When you ask sponsors what their top 10 assets are, or what they're looking for within a sponsorship, number 1 is category exclusivity. Number 2 is digital. Number 6 is in stadium signage. Number 10 is broadcast ads. So it's just, a lot of people might think, hey, digital is a fad, or maybe it's something that we need to maybe look at. And when seeing the Northwestern head coach, love Pat as a coach, but when seeing him come up and say the phones are the reason, it's a lot of times it's a misunderstanding of where attention is and what sponsors want. Our sponsors, through their dollars of where they spend and through what they're telling us digital is where they want to be. Offering the products to be able to do that great one-on-one connections more so than just overall branding is really, really key. And I think everybody on this webinar has seen that, understood that, and taken advantage of it. And, they're winning. And that's just a really key piece that, those two stats I think aren't shared enough of our sponsors want digital. If you offer them, you'll win. And it's really a pretty easy equation there.
Cool. And I think the other thing too, everyone here has mentioned the word engagement multiple times. I would really kind of like to go around the horn here and just kind of like, how do you guys at your organization measure engagement? Like, what is engagement for you? How are you measuring that? What are the sponsors looking standpoint? Because everyone I feel like is different in terms of what their KPIs are, but I think fleshing that out and really kind of going deeper into what that really means for you guys will be helpful. So Rich, on your side, I'd like to start with you. Like, how do the Winterhawks define engagement? How do your partners define engagement? And how are you kind of measuring against that?
Well, really for us, the engagement metric is dependent upon what the sponsors and our agreed upon outcome is of this campaign. In some cases, that may be they want to see, a certain number of click-throughs. In other cases, they may want to see a certain number of entries or registrations for a particular contest. So it's really going to vary as far as how that engagement gets measured. One of the things that I always make sure that I do early on in the conversation with my current partners and potential partners when it comes to digital is to find out from them, what does success look like to you as part of this partnership in general, in big terms, as well as this specific digital element of the partnership. How are you going to measure success in your partnership with the Winterhawks? And then I make sure that we are structuring everything, whether it's registrations, whether it's replies to social media, comments, whether it's, for example, we do a lot of Facebook retargeting with ticket offers, as Nick mentioned a little bit earlier. How many of those are we getting in for a particular game? And what we do in specific with our partnership with Toyota is it's not just tied to the Toyota brand, it's tied into individual dealerships within the market. So for Toyota of Portland versus Toyota of Beaverton versus Toyota of Gresham and all the other little communities around the greater Portland area, how many people in that particular area are we engaging with based upon whatever metric it is that we've established as being the measuring stick for success in this partnership. So to answer your question, it depends. It just depends on what the desired result is.
For engagement for MRN, and it goes hand in hand with my colleague Peter from International Speedway Corporation, INC, because we're lockstep. We're run by the same company. We operate together. MRN was formed 50 years ago to be the megaphone for NASCAR and the racetracks to help sell race tickets to next week's event, next month's event. So the engagement for us is twofold. One is to help drive awareness of the sport and next week's events and next month's events. So we help sell race tickets to those events. And then on a more personal level, to have that really one-on-one relationship with the race fan, both from an audio perspective as someone who wants to have an appointment listening for our races every weekend, but also becomes, infatuated with the sport and says, I want to go out and touch it and feel it and engage with us on that sense. While I'm at it, I was looking at some of the questions, Adam, and somebody asked about how important is having powerful Wi-Fi. It's at the venue, of course, for all of us, I think I can answer for everybody with saying it's very, very important for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, for the technology for people to in our case, we do the MRN fan vote brought to you by XYZ brand for them to be able to participate there at the venue and play along. But also because we know as our fan base, a lot of the fan base is aging up, and we want new fans to come in and they don't go anywhere without their smartphones and messing around on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. We have to have that Wi-Fi connection. A little bit trickier for us in that we're racetrack to racetrack. We're talking about very, very large venues, but oh so important that when somebody comes to the racetrack, that they're to be able to participate and lean in and on hearing our broadcast through whatever device they're doing, and also to play along with the fan votes as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things too I would add to that is just it was important, and Nick can talk to this. With these digital gaming opportunities and platforms, Wi-Fi is great, but if you don't have it, will it still work? And will it still work and not frustrate our fan? Our front stretch at Talladega and Daytona is 1 mile long. I mean, it is a huge facility. You can fit 10 giant stadiums in the infield of both of those tracks. So we're talking about having the ability to have fans engage and have a good experience. So, it's very important that what we're providing to them does not take a lot of data, is easy to play and easy to register. For us, success has been tied to, really, as Ron said, what's important to the client. Outback is a client of ours for many years now, and they have had a platform of Bloomin' Monday, where they work with Kevin Harvick, and if he scores in the top 10 in any given race, on Monday you get a free Bloomin' Onion at your local Outback. It's been very successful. They use NASCAR radio, digital and social to really only exclusively talk about that message. We added this, a digital component to that to help that goal of theirs. And we know it works. They keep coming back. They tell us what their sales are on Monday, traditionally slow day in the restaurant business. So, it really is, like Ron said, it's finding out what is important to the client. We've used our fan vote for a hotel chain. They've tied that to a sponsorship and sweepstakes that, they're running on their own, but this feeds into that. And it is a seamless transition to play the game and then enter. And I think that's what we're looking for, is something that's simple, easy to play, and then we know that the fan is having a good experience. I would say, Chris is on the front line. I don't know of any time where I've heard we've had a lot of complaints saying, yeah, that was kind of a waste, that digital game. I couldn't play it. I mean, we've I think partnering with Nick, we've certainly come up with the means to do this and make it easy for the fans.
And just if I can tag something on there real quick, one of the things that I really like about digital, and one of the things that's enabled us to bring to our fan base, is the opportunity to engage with them, not just on a game night, or not just within hockey season. I am now engaging and connecting with them 365 days a year, potentially. I don't think we're doing it every single day, but one of the things that this digital element does allow me to do is not only drive additional revenue, but also to enable my sponsors to now be engaged with and in contact with and generate business from my fan base throughout the year, not just during my season or on my game day.
Awesome. Definitely huge.
Yeah, I would just add to that it really is. I know, we've struggled with, the league, the tracks, our company, our radio company. How do you sell social? How do you, use social as a sponsored element? And, it's not our platform. We have our apps, we have our websites, and certainly making something easy and expected to be sponsored, like a trivia game, like scratchers and things like that. It is, as Ron said, it's an easy way to engage with our fans all week long.
And then just to follow up on that, Regan in the chat asked, she's like, how are you communicating to the fans that this game exists and are getting them to play? What does this look like from an awareness standpoint and getting them to engage?
Well, at MRN, we're fortunate. So we have 3 different opportunities in venue on the Jumbotron screens and audibly. So we're on the PA system, it's simulcast. If somebody has a scanner and they're listening to their favorite driver and crew chief, they can also listen to us at the same time. So if they're hearing our announcers, and then of course we have the megaphone of our radio network. So we're equally trying to talk to the people on the grandstands, the 70 to 125,000 people that might be at a race, as well as the millions that are listening to the radio. So that's how we do that, and we do that through our booth announcers, and we're also doing it digitally as well. We're in lockstep with our digital team, who will send out a tweet and Facebook message at the same time.
We've also had a lot of success, for lack of a better term, going outside of our fan base with some of these opportunities. So we do a lot in the area of, for example, paid Facebook advertising, against certain analytics that we want to hit. So it's not just using our regular channels in arena through our social media, email, things like that, but it's also using this as an opportunity to reach out to a potential new fan, get them engaged with the team maybe for the first time through paid social. And as Nick will attest, it's extremely inexpensive to do so, and it's highly targeted. The ROI that we've seen on our paid Facebook has been as high as 14 times ROI, and the engagements have just been incredible. So we're also using digital and our sponsorship elements to go outside of our existing fan base, bring new consumers in, hopefully making fans of the team as well, but if nothing else, to reach out to them with awareness of and games and fun stuff surrounding the team.
Yeah, what I say overall, and what I always tell our clients when we get asked this a lot, right? You definitely don't want nobody playing. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, did it happen, right? If you throw a scratcher game up, was it really even there? What I always say is every team's going to be different. Just understand where your attention is. Some teams, they have a mobile app, and that's where their attention is. MRN has a radio station and, the access to the on-track elements. Some people have very, very large Twitter, following, and that's where they can win. Even if they're doing only 5,000 people in the stadium, they might have 30,000 people following on social media. So, what I always say is, again, one, it comes down to the sponsor. What's their goal? Is their goal to reach a lot of people? Great. Is their goal to, have more, a smaller base, but more quality leads? Let's find that out. But then on your end, whether it's scoreboard, whether it's push notifications through your app, whether it's, posting on social, just really, really understand where your attention is for your fan base, and then be able to kind of say, hey, look, if we really want this to be successful, here's where our fans already engage with us. Let's offer and push this to them. And that's usually where we've seen a ton of success on that side.
Awesome. And I think, Rich, you've kind of danced around this, but I would love for you guys to take everyone through basically your marketing funnels, especially when it comes to digital engagement, right? And I think Nick touched on it as well. Like, you have the app, and you're retargeting them here, then you're getting them into this opportunity where they're engaging with the sponsors. Now, obviously, I'm just, it's sponsor dependent, but what do these funnels look like for you guys when depending on campaign? And maybe if you can use a campaign that you thought was pretty successful and take us through one of those, I think would be super impactful.
Well, we'll use the big one, and that is, the multi-dimensional, multifaceted partnership that we have with Toyota in the Portland market. When we first went to Toyota and we got into the whole digital discussion, as I said, the first thing, or one of the first things that I ask is, what is the desired outcome? What is it that you're trying to accomplish here? And really what the desired outcome was for Toyota, it wasn't so much a branding standpoint, it was, we want to connect fans of the Portland Winterhawks who are in proximity to our specific dealerships with those dealerships. And they kind of left it open to us as far as how that would take place. But essentially it was, we want to build relationships. We want to engage fans on a hyper-local level. I mean, we're talking like within 5 miles of a specific dealership. So what we decided to do was, first we got to engage the fan with the Toyota brand, and we decided to go the route with trivia to do that. And we picked trivia, as I said, because it's something that you don't necessarily have to be a 40-plus year fan of the Winterhawks to be able to participate in. Some of the trivia questions that we ask, they're pretty team specific. Some of them are very generic, like what's the width of a hockey goal, things along those lines. And, we try to make it so that anybody can play. If you play the game and you're one of the first 100 people to select the winning answer, the correct answer, you automatically receive via email, and oh, by the way, you enter an email address before you play this game, so we're able to collect that information. But if you're one of the first 100 people to correctly guess the answer, you get a notification right there on your Winterhawks app where you're playing the game saying congratulations, or sorry, you got it right, but you weren't one of the first 100, or sorry, you weren't right, please play again next time. Then if you're one of the first 100 and Toyota is activating at the game that night, you take your phone up to the Toyota activation area, and there's your first connection, your first engagement directly with the brand, is you're at the game, Toyota's on the concourse, and all you got to do is show them that you're one of the first 100 winners, and you're going to get a special prize courtesy of Toyota, some sort of a co-branded item. So from there, we would then take that information, and I'll let maybe Nick talk a little bit about the voodoo behind the scenes as far as the digital, the analytics that went into all this. But we then took that information and sent out a follow-up email to anybody who played saying, hey, thank you very much for playing our game. We really appreciate it. Toyota would like for you to be their guest at a future Winterhawks game. Could you please fill out this form, hit submit, and we'll randomly draw people to either win tickets to a future game, or sit in a suite at a future game that's hosted by Toyota, or sit in a special rinkside area also hosted by Toyota. And that's where the one-on-one engagement comes in, where representatives from each Toyota dealership have the opportunity to mix and mingle, talk a little bit, hand out business cards. We make it really clear to the folks from Toyota, you're not here to sell today. This is just an engagement opportunity. This is just a networking and building a relationship opportunity with folks that are in your particular geographic area. Nick, maybe I'll let you take it from here as far as how some of the analytics works behind the scenes on how those folks get retargeted.
Yeah, first and foremost, big thing is obviously privacy, right? As you're collecting lead gen, and what we always push to our clients is just making sure you're letting them know, hey, you're agreeing to some of these, getting more information, things like that, right? Obviously, make sure you're compliant. That's really important. On the second side is, again, I talk a lot about reverse engineering, right? Digital just for digital's sake is useless. You're trying to solve a goal. This is a tool to solve a goal. So what we do with Toyota is, again, we're trying to create that journey of multiple touch points. Nobody buys a car from a coupon. Nobody buys a car from, somebody might buy a burger from a coupon, but a car is a longer relationship build. So what we, kind of that funnel is, let's get you that first touch point with trivia. It's in the stadium. Even if you're not playing, you're connecting with Toyota just because you're seeing the branding. Funnel that down to the people who actually are playing. They're playing, they're answering questions. We have their email. And we're also reaching fans and connecting them with Toyota. That's your second touch point. Your third touch point is, hey, you've won. I've sent you, as Rich said, and this is a great human part of it, the non-digital part is I've sent you an email. Now go engage with one of our Toyota reps at the booth. So now you're driving people to take a third touch point. There's your third. In one game, you have 3 great touch points to go on that side. You get your prize, and then, a week passes and maybe you've forgotten a little bit about Toyota and you get an email or you get a Instagram, retargeted ad that basically says, hey, this Toyota dealership, which is close to you, again, we're building that relationship, wants to send you to the game for free in the Toyota corner, right on the glass. Sign up here and be one of the first 20 to get tickets, right? And even if, and Rich has seen, in the hundreds of people signing up from that ad, we offer the ability to say, hey, you didn't get that top 20, but here's some tickets from Toyota as well. Again, you're trying to build that brand affinity, but by the time you're interacting with Toyota, and Rich has a great point of, you don't want to send a salesperson in there to try and sell a car. They're trying to build a relationship. By the time that fan is getting into, again, that traditional asset of the Toyota corner, they've interacted with Toyota maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So they're ready to engage. They hopefully have a great, affinity toward the brand. And then, if you're a smart salesperson, you're going up and saying, hey, let me buy you a beer if you're of age. Let me buy you a beer. Let me sit with you and watch the game. And by the way, here's my card. If you ever need, to buy a car or any advice on that, let me know. And now you have 5 touch points in the funnel to where before they're even considering, hey, I want to chat with you, we've engaged. So, I think thinking of the different ways to filter down, again, reverse engineering your goal is really, really important. And I think, digital for digital's sake, again, Peter and Chris talked about, hey, we used a platform before and it was getting high volume, but how do we engage after that? That's what brands are really looking for, right? That's where, being able to reverse engineer and build those multiple touch points is really, really important. And I think that's what brands are looking for, just because the alternative is they can just retarget on Facebook. They can literally retarget race fans on Facebook. How can you as a sponsorship in a department and as a team basically go to them and say, hey, don't buy Facebook ads. Allow us to be a little bit of an influencer, connect you at a great experience, create a bunch of great touch points so that we can prime you towards your goal. And, Toyota didn't sell cars to every single person in that booth, which is totally fine. But, they had success with this platform, obviously, because they re-upped and went for another year on the package. So, I think when you think about the funnel, really think about, hey, what's the goal? The goal is buying a car. Me as someone who would want to be sold to as a car buyer, what are those steps to be able to get to that process?
And a couple of things just to add on to that. First of all, we don't take these and turn these leads over to Toyota. This is not, like, here you go, Toyota, now you can email these folks. Anything that we're doing is coming from the Winterhawks with our branding on it and so forth. And then the other thing is part of the feedback that has made Toyota want to grow and expand this is actually coming from those dealership representatives, where they talk about how cool it is for them to be able to engage with consumers outside of a dealership setting. It's very relaxed. They're having fun. It's not, something where you're trying to steer them over to the finance manager or something like that. Hey, we're just here to have fun, watch a hockey game, and build a relationship. So the representatives from the individual dealerships have provided outstanding feedback that they really enjoyed this opportunity to get out of the dealership, engage with consumers at a fun environment like a hockey game, and that's where a lot of the value comes in for Toyota and has caused them to want to grow this with other partners.
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, to mute.
I saw my lips talking, but not. But you guys got it. Chris and Peter, from your standpoint, successful campaign funnel. What does that look like on, maybe it's Outback or another brand partner?
Well, I think some of our sport, part of the fabric of the race day experience is the fan zone, is the sponsor display. We as at ISC know that when an attendee comes to a race, it's a little different than stick and ball sports. More than 50% of them are there for an hour to two in the sponsor display area. And those sponsors like Toyota or Ford, the very large displays where it's almost like a showroom, and Busch Beer and lots of others invest a lot of money to have that one-on-one fan engagement with potential NASCAR fans. I think what we found is success is that not everybody can afford that level of commitment in terms of being at, NASCAR season is 38 weeks long. It's a very long. ISC has most of those events, but we certainly it can be cumbersome in terms of dollars spent for that. I think these digital platforms are very turnkey. I saw a question earlier about did you have to ramp up for fan engagement for activation of these games? It's really up to the sponsor and to the team or entity that's using or selling the platform. We've been able with Outback, they didn't need to have anybody at the event. They sent all of their, we use it where we pull fans out of the opening, pre-race on the track, the fan zone, bring somebody out and then play a one-on-one fan engagement live on the Jumbotron screens in front of all the fans. They get to guess, how many Bloomin' Onions would you need to fill Kevin Harvick's car. We then use that sort of introduction as then a way to talk to all the fans at the stands. For Outback, we only do this at the track, and we allow all the fans to compete with a scratcher, kind of the same thing, and they get a chance to win a gift card, something from Outback. Outback doesn't have to show up to do that. It's very easy for them to engage with fans in that way. We're doing all the work, and it's for them after the initial did you win or did you not win. We allow fans then to go directly to their website to sign up for their frequent dining program, which they're making additional offer that if you go sign up, you'll get so many dollars that you can then use at Outback on your next visit. So I think it really, that's one example. I think it's a comparison to ROM where, if a client really wants to, they can use this as a platform to engage with fans right then and there. With our experiences so far, it's been, we're either talking to fans across the United States, through the radio network, or very specifically at that week's NASCAR race at our track.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I think as we kind of get into final 10 minutes here, so getting some questions from the audience, and really I think this one is a good one here from Shane, and it says, do any of you guys have any best practices for educating clients / prospects about digital in order to sell them the digital assets? And I think that also kind of wraps into a question. It's like, challenges. Like, obviously we've talked about the good things and what you guys have done, but from a challenging standpoint, what do you run into, the obstacles, everything like that? I think it's a good kind of conversation point to hit on, and I'll open it up to Chris, since it's probably your time to jump in.
Sure. Well, I think it was Nick who mentioned by having a beer together. Maybe you have a few beers. It's about relationships. I think the best practices on the client and prospect side is certainly the level of it. Educating them about what you're doing, but it starts on their side of the fence in my world, because I'm still you have to understand what their goals and objectives are, and figure out what success looks like for that prospect. You shouldn't do anything until you understand that, and then forming a relationship on that human connection, that you can figure out what their hot buttons are and what their touch points are there for success. And then you take the resources you have in front of us. And in our particular instance, we have quite a few, and one of the least, which is SQWAD, in this new platform, which we're having great success with. And then we're taking the stuff that Nick has built there and using it to the best of his abilities and our abilities to match it to what our clients need and what our race fans are to do. Our stuff goes, no pun intended, but in the world of NASCAR, things move really fast. And it's, Peter mentioned, it's really loud at the racetrack. And as this platform that we use, the fans can potentially hear it at the racetrack, but maybe not if we're doing a question that's during green flag racing and it's loud out and they're not wearing scanner headphones. We tend to focus our fan votes during what we call the stage breaks, which are, in layman's terms, timeouts during the races that we have now, so that everybody has a good chance of hearing it. But it moves so fast that we've got to be on our toes and get the information out and very quickly to the fan base. But again, to sum up the question to the guy's question about the best practices, it starts with learning about what success looks like for them and then taking what you have and marrying that together. And then go have a beer or two to celebrate those successes.
There you go. Rich, similar for you?
Yeah, similar to me. One of the biggest challenges that I come up against is because of the size of my team and the size of who I'm targeting sponsor-wise, I'm not always dealing with the, shall we say, most sophisticated digital marketing organizations in the world. They may be what I'll call well-intentioned, but they don't quite know how to make all this work just yet. And that's where having a track record of success, allowing your other digital partners to act as referrals that you can direct them to and say, look, you don't need to necessarily understand the total nuts and bolts of how this all works. That's why I defer to Nick a lot, because there's a lot of the behind the scenes sort of technical stuff on digital sponsorships that frankly I don't know and don't entirely need to know. I just need to know that because then I get dangerous and I start making suggestions and Nick rolls his eyes.
You're feeling like Baker Mayfield, right? Woke up feeling dangerous.
Yeah. So, all I know is, look, if this is what you want to accomplish, if this is your desired outcome, we can do that for you. I've got the folks between Nick and our social media team and some others within the Winterhawks organization who have done this before. We know how to do it. We know how to put it together. We'll keep you, the sponsor, apprised of our progress throughout the course of the sponsorship activation. If something's not working right, don't worry about it. We're gonna bring that to you. We're gonna offer some proposed solutions on how we can get this back on track. But as I say, the big thing for me is just understanding, kind of from the sponsor side of things, what is the depth of knowledge? What is the level of experience that I'm dealing with here? In some cases, they may have done this in multiple markets or with multiple teams. They've got it dialed in. In other cases, it's up to us to be the experts and bring our history of success and our human assets as well to bear in the partnership to make it work out for both sides.
And Peter, any insight there, or Chris, anything there?
I'd say it's very similar, to what Rich is saying with us. We are focused mostly on national brands and national advertising dollars. I think we're in the business of sports. Our content is often sponsorable, but I think what's very exciting for us and to be able to talk that language with our prospects and clients is that now we have content that also provides engagement, one-on-one engagement with the fans. I mean, the sport does that. You can buy a display. You can send people out to the track. I think, and sort of going back full circle to your comment on the Northwestern coach, this is an exciting platform that really helps us and gets our clients interested, our fans engaged at the tracks and when they're away from the tracks. So I think it's a good thing for the sport. We're starting to do trivia hopefully soon, and I think really looking for different opportunities to bring clients into into the mix.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is just really, really, really understanding that digital is a tool. It's not the answer to what you're trying to accomplish. So what I try to tell all our clients is just, this is a tool. They have a goal. Sometimes that tool's not the right piece to it, right? Sometimes it 100% is the right piece to it. So Scratchers is a way that you can engage fans, distribute coupons, collect some emails, right? As if you're not using it, brands are looking for those digital activations and those digital assets. But overall, convincing a brand that they should engage fans digitally today is not hard. But this is just a tool to help them reach their goal of selling, some bloomin' onions, selling a car. It really hasn't changed, just the platforms that change. So I think when it comes down to it, will our Scratchers be relevant 5 years from now? Who the heck knows? We might have contact lenses that the entire world is in AR, right? But the overall goal will be use that platform to go sell a car or to convince people that your brand is the best brand. Those platforms are going to change. These are just tools to help you reach your goal. And as long as you de-risk that partner, as long as you go in and say, hey, look, your goal is to sell a car. Here's how I'm going to backtrack with that technology. You should be clutch. You should be fine. I don't think you'll get too much pushback just because they say, hey, I see that journey. I see how this can work out. And you're pretty much just convincing them that digital is the tool that they need to use.
Well, and the other thing that I would add to that, along with it's just another tool thing, is also understand that at the same time, there are specific budgets being devoted solely towards digital assets these days.
Yes.
Nick and I talk often about the joke about when they asked the bank robber, well, why did you rob the bank? His answer was, well, because that's where the money is. And so part of considering also your digital assets is also understanding that there are buckets of digital only. It's earmarked for digital. And that if your team or your organization is not already a player in that area, my recommendation is get there and get there now, because if you're not going after it, it's going to get spent someplace. And if it's not going to your team or your organization, somebody else is going to go in there and swoop it up. And now you're playing catch up. So I think a big chunk of this is just understanding that, yes, it's just another tool, but it's also another tool that in some cases there's a whole separate bucket of money for which it is being dedicated towards digital promotions and marketing and engagement.
That's a good point. I think, especially for the younger, newer folks in the sponsorship world, what Rich has said about the two buckets. There are different buckets of money and budgets to pull from. And digital, whereas once it was certainly just it was all in one blended bucket, now it's gotten to the point there are pretty significant digital budgets sitting over to the side. And you as salespeople are looking for the activation, need to ask that question about those dollars. Where do they sit, and is it someone else I need to talk to about getting into that budget?
Awesome. Well, it looks like we're running up against the 2 hour mark, or excuse me, the 2 p.m. Eastern mark, the 1 hour mark, as they say. Time always flies when you guys are having fun. I will here take a second to direct you guys, send a quick call to you guys can check out SQWAD and all they are doing right here at this link. It's about to pop up on your screen, so you can check out SQWAD right there at that link, see what they're doing, see what Nick is up to, and see what these guys here on the panel have referenced. Guys, really do appreciate all your time. I know it's a busy time of the year, sitting there waiting for whitewater rafting and the season to start. You guys have renewals coming up, and Nick too is obviously running a business. I know what that's like, but again, really appreciate you guys jumping on. Everyone else who joined us for the last hour, awesome. Thanks for joining us. We'll have these again as much as we can for you guys. We know that you really do enjoy them. And yeah, again, everyone else, thanks so much. It's a great time. And for all those who are still on, you will get an email after the event, and it'll send you a full recap and a full thing so you can watch again anytime you want or share with people in your organization. So awesome, you guys. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend.
Thanks, Adam. Take care.
Off to the golf course.